All righty. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining me on What Do You Know with Joe. I have the elite group of the Richey family in joining me. Craig, Richey, Sue Richey, Colin Richey. Thank you so much of Richey Property Management. We're gonna be talking a little bit about business, how they got to where they are today, some knowledge as they are successful in their industry. So we're really excited to have everyone. How's everyone doing?
Thank you.
Good,
We're
thanks.
excited.
Oh, man,
Yeah, I'm good.
I-
Happy
You
to be
guys
back.
are so grown up now. We feel like really old people now because we've known Joe. We've known Joe since pretty much since he was like 2 or 3.
big. Yeah, no, I forgot. For those who don't know us and anyone, I've been friends with Colin since, as Miss Richey just said, 2 years old. Known the Richeys for a very long time, lived right behind them or in front of them, depending on where you're standing. And it was awesome. Colin's been a close friend of mine, getting married here soon, dropping that off. And I'm sure you guys are excited about that. We'll talk about that later. But really just want to get to know you guys. For those who do know the Richeys as well, they're very successful in property management as well as real estate. And we just want to learn more about that. And to kind of get started, Colin, I want you to be involved as well because the protege, maybe, as some would call him. And he's such a hard worker. He's still in the office. It's 8:00. He's just hard working. Tell us about like early life, just so everyone can understand where you came from, what you do or what you were doing growing up, a little bit about like the early life before you started getting into like pre-adulthood and college, and we'll get all to that and all the professionalism, but a little bit about growing up and everything. We'll start with Mrs. Richey, of course.
Sure. And you got to stop me. You can't call me that anymore.
Oh gosh, Sue. Yes,
yeah.
There's strike one. Strike one.
Well, you know what? I think that, I mean, we're lucky. We're lucky. I feel like you guys are lucky. We had a happy growing up, right? We were good students. We played a lot of sports, kind of like you guys. And I feel like, though, I feel like I was always, if we're talking kind of business and kind of how we ended up where we are, I feel like as a kid, I was always pretty entrepreneurial. I had every lemonade stand I sold. I was always competitive with my Girl Scout cookies. I was fundraising for March of Dimes, whatever it was, I was going to make the most of. I was going to do the most. But I was like, I don't know. I was always like that when I was a kid. And I don't know. It's still who I am, but I kind of mellowed a little bit now.
Moving on.
That, but it's
okay.
true.
Craig, I didn't say Mr. Richey. Craig, what about you?
Thank you. Yeah, so a lot the same. I think that's why we connected so easily, is because I was always entrepreneurial. I mean, I think I used to cut lawns to make money, and then I got a paper route to make money, and then I started collecting the used newspapers from the people to sell as recycling. So I'd, sell them the newspaper once, get it back for free, and then sell it for recycling. And then, I was doing all that on a bike, and then finally got to jobs. And I don't know, we were just always entrepreneurial. In high school, I used to read Inc. Magazine Incorporated. I don't even know if that's still around anymore. But just reading about people's business startups and all that. I guess it was kind of like the long ago version of Wired or something like that. We just always wanted to do our own thing. In college, we started a business in college. It didn't really go anywhere, but we learned a lot, and then we got out of school and got jobs, and then started another business, and that went a little somewhere. But you just keep trying and figuring stuff out, and it's always been our way. I don't think either one of us were really good for the big corporate environment. We could do pretty well. I mean, I would say we did average to better than average, but we weren't going to be there 20 years.
Understood. And I appreciate it. There's a lot to dissect from both you and Sue's answers so much, and I can't wait. Colin, looking to you now.
Yeah, I think I maybe think of myself growing up as less entrepreneurial than they've just described themselves. I feel like when I think about me as a kid, I don't know if there's like a common theme, and it's probably still true today. I've just always liked to try a lot of different things, and whatever my obsession is for that, school year, or for those few years, or even today, is I feel like I've been obsessed with one thing for a period of time and then on to the next thing and on to the next thing. And like, maybe there's elements of entrepreneurialism in some parts. Like the thing that stands out to me the most is sometime in high school, I did in the Franklin Farm Almanac.
I was just about to say
I put an ad in there of like, I'll sell your stuff on eBay.
I was just about to say, not
So like there
entrepreneurial.
definitely are those things, but there's other stuff where it's like I played every single Pokemon game and just collected every single Pokemon I could, like literally completed the whole thing, and like that was my thing for like a year and a half or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of, if there is any theme of my growing up, it's phases of doing something, learning everything I can about that thing, feeling like I've kind of accomplished enough, and then finding the new passion.
Yeah, I think that there is something entrepreneurial about that, because you always want to be learning something new and doing something new, and it's almost like you're easily bored and you want to move on to the new thing. And that, I think, has been one of the big changes in how long we've been doing this business, is that I've kind of had to change my outlook from the new thing to keep improving. I mean, because we don't want to just be the same company every year and do the same thing every year.
Agreed. Because you get kind of, like I think you allude to, you just kind of get caught in that circle.
Yeah.
And I think everyone kind of alluded to it, but I don't think we've ever had more Hokies in a room on the show before. So that's also impressive. But like, I would love to know what you majored in, and then also like, I think everyone also who has this idea either before they get to school or while they're in school, like, this is what I'm going to do, and sometimes that vastly changes. So I'm curious to know, like, what did you major in, what were you going to do, and where do you think that was going to put you after college? And we'll start with Miss Richey, of course.
Yeah. So I think I actually am doing a lot of what I majored in, and still what I really do like, which a lot is marketing. That was a marketing major. I was actually a double major in marketing and communication studies. And now with my YouTube channel, I get to use my communication and PR and journal and my fake journalism skills. But it's fun. Like Colin, I get super bored easily. And it's funny that I always am looking to how do we continue to evolve this business. But anyway, so I feel like I'm doing a lot of what I thought I would do, except that when we first were out of school, I thought for sure I was going to be like big time corporate person, because when we came out of school, that was like the internet was just kind of there starting. You guys have so many opportunities like that we didn't have. So it was get a job, do really, really well in this job. I mean, the idea of entrepreneurship, yeah, it was always there and I wanted to do it, but it was also like so cool to be like this big corporate girl. Like that's what my friends always said, oh, you're going to do that. And I always thought I'd do that. And then I tried it and I was like, I really don't like this. But the part of it, the sales part of it, the marketing part of that, that's what I've always loved, and that's never changed. So.
I was very curious. You mentioned like after Colin answers, I'm always curious, like hear what you guys think, just because like being his parents, I'd love to like you get to see it like as he's growing and things. So I'm always curious to that. But same question, Mr. or Craig, looking over you. Damn it, that's strike two.
You're all right.
I'm feeling that this Colin. I texted him earlier today. I was like, it's like, well, I think it was like 6 or 5 o'clock, and I was like, Colin, I'm already stressing. Like, I'm gonna say Mr. Richey so much. And Colin was like, I do it at the office, can't say mom and dad.
Yeah.
I was like, that's such a good point. I couldn't even say that. Would be so much harder.
I do that wrong a lot at the office.
I was gonna say you're the most guilty of it, I think.
You are.
Yeah. So college wise, so it's funny, growing up, I had an uncle who was just super smart, and he was an engineer. I always thought I wanted to be an engineer because he could answer any question. And you ask him these dumb kid questions, like, why is the sky blue? And he'd tell you the real answer, So, and he'd explain it to you like you were an adult. And so I just always had that respect and like that kind of fed the love of learning and all that. But I don't know, after a while, I kind of leaned towards architecture because I like the design. And then at the last minute, as I was applying to colleges, I decided, you know what, business is what I've really been enjoying, and that's the way I should go. I had already applied to a couple of schools in architecture and changed and went the right way, I think. So, you know, it's where I double majored in finance and management. The management, you don't get out of school and use that, right? You get out of school and you work like the lowest job in the totem pole, and you work your way up. But you know, I pretty quickly realized that I didn't like that corporate environment. I wasn't really going to use those management skills in that way. You know, and until we started our own thing, and even then it was so small that we really didn't use it in those ways either. But the business, the finance, the accounting, all of that has been really valuable to us. And so, you know, it's been nice through the years. Like I'd say the combination of Sue's marketing and communication skills and my kind of finance and accounting type knowledge has been really, really helpful. It's been a good combination to get us to grow. And, you know, am I using the management stuff now? I probably am a little bit, but you know, as you grow and realize what you're good at and what you like, I like working with people. I don't always like managing people, right? So, you know, that isn't really a big part of it, but it's still, I guess, good to know the theories and philosophies behind it. That's about all that degree really turned out to for me.
It's funny you say that, because like it's kind of where I want to go in my career track as a management degree as well. And so I want to, you know, use that out there. So I'd be curious to pick your brain more about that. And Colin, lastly, looking to you.
Yeah, I think that I think we talked about this the last time I joined you.
A little bit.
But yeah, I did the dual degree in finance and real estate. And the real estate aspect, I think I did it more out of passion is too strong of a word, but just curiosity of real estate beyond what I knew from my parents of residential real estate sales and some rental property management, to learn about development and construction and all that stuff, which is way more what the program at Tech is focused on, like large development and stuff like that. But the finance, I started in finance, and my degree was in bank management. So that's really what I think I started school, and I was interested in like pursuing that route of banking. And I don't know when really, and I think that's partly just kind of serendipitous of having a like fraternity alumni who called our president and said, "Hey, do you have any guys in finance who would want to do this consulting internship?" And then I was like, "Oh, the consulting world's not bad. You know, I get to kind of touch on everything and kind of be, you know, see everything without needing to be an expert in anything almost." Yeah, consultants would say they're an expert in business transition and transformation and, you know, your different software systems and all that. But, you know, as a high school or college junior, I was like, oh, okay, I can have a lot of different clients and all that. So the shift of my degree focused from, well, it stayed as bank management, but really it became, how can I use these skills in a consulting focus? You know, that's kind of where it became. I would say it was honestly super useful though, because I took classes on Excel and, you know, just the simple but, you know, important enough mathematical knowledge that became applicable.
Yeah. Oh man, great journeys, great stories. Yeah, I appreciate everyone sharing, because again, I know like I'm really curious to learn more about like the business, and especially you starting like in your careers, and appreciate you sharing all the background. So Ms. Richey, in like the early stages of your careers, like how did what you were doing, you know, kind of get you into real estate and pivot a little bit into that world? And what, you know, maybe was that first inkling that you were interested in being like, okay, I may want to switch into this? Because was real estate right after your like first like job, or what was that like? What was that path like?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's back to what you just said, and kind of piggybacking on that, I think the whole thing is a journey, and we look back and it's like, wow, look, I mean, you see this path and you don't know where you're going, right? You think you know, but life takes you this way and you make the best decisions. And I'm lucky enough to have a partner that we were able to, like, we always called it leapfrogging each other, because we would just be like, okay, I'm stable, you take a risk. Okay, then we would just go here. And then guess what? Then I did really well at real estate. And then guess what? Craig quit. And then he came, and it was sort of like this leapfrog. That's kind of how this all eventually happened. But absolutely, no, I did not think I was going to go into real estate, nor did I. We were always interested in it. We had a really good professor in college that made us interested in it, and we knew we would invest in it and somehow be involved in it. But we went into telecom in the early 90s out of college, and
Makes sense.
MCI, and all of the telecom companies were where everyone worked, and it was a great place to work for a while. I had fun, but again, when Colin was born is when I ended up leaving there, and then I was home for a little bit, but it wasn't long before I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And I literally just kind of fell into real estate because one of my sorority sisters at Virginia Tech, her mother was our realtor when we bought our first townhouse, and we talked one day, and she's like, why don't you could just help me? And those were the days we made paper brochures, and there was no real MLS, and we just stuck pictures go to the CVS and pick up the pictures and stick them on the brochures. And there, it was still that. And that was like 1996. That wasn't that long ago. But anyway, so that long story short, I said, okay, fine, I'll help you. And then she's like, why don't you get licensed? And you'd be good at this. And I was like, no way. Like every realtor I knew had big hair. They drove big Cadillacs. They were like, these ladies who were just like, I was like, no, I came from this corporate world. I don't want to do that. But I did. And then I didn't look back. And that's how that started. And then I was like, okay, well, I can help you a little bit, but I have 2 babies. Like, I don't have time to do this. I'll just help you whatever I could. But again, like, I'm kind of like, okay, we knew these people and these people and people knew. And I was like, okay, then I started helping and bringing in business and selling with Anna was her name. And she, before long, I was busy, and we were lucky enough to have our parents in the area. So they helped with the kids, and and then Craig, a couple of years later, we were on a big trip, which made us think a lot. And that was the time he was like, okay, we're going all in. And then he quit.
And you kind of alluded to it we can bring it up later because I definitely want to talk about it. It sounds like from a networking perspective and also utilizing the network, that's something that you strongly utilize. I'd love to talk more about that too, just because I think relying on your network sometimes it can be underrated, and you never know who can actually help you in a situation and make what you might think is like something that's really tasked on your list and that's hard. They might be able to help in a little way that makes your life easier, but they're just trying to help you out. And it's key to utilize that.
I'll tell you how I feel like I've learned a lot about networking. And I think that in the beginning, I used to think, oh yeah, we have a lot of Virginia Tech alum, and we have this, and like people will just connect with you because you have these some things in common. Some of that is true. And you think that, I don't know, that some connections will help you. But what I have found over time is that you start doing things that are important to you, whether it's in your community, with volunteering, getting involved in different organizations, and doing it for literally the love of doing that. Not because, oh, I'm going to meet this person and I'm going to meet this person, I'm connected. I never have, and I still don't I've been in so many chambers of commerce. I've met so many good people, and lots of our paths overlap in a lot of these volunteer things. I don't love I'm going to give you my card and you do this. That's not why. Why people refer people to us nowadays is because they've known us through being on the board at the YMCA, being in Vienna Rotary, being in all of the other kinds of things that we really do like. And that, yes, that's networking, but that's coming at it really differently, So when you're just like, oh, and you want to meet people, and you should do fun social things and college things. But I think that's something I've learned. That's really an important thing, is to be genuine, and then the things will come.
I feel like a little bit of the card thing can be a little too much surface and not enough actual learning about someone. So I agree. Mr. Richey or Craig.
Wait, we got to figure out the penalty for this.
You guys pick. Looking to you, same kind of question.
Wait, back to what was the question again? I was thinking.
Yeah, we went down rabbit hole there a little bit. Early stages of your career, like what did you do right after school, and then how did that kind of Miss Sue kind of alluded to it? What was how did that lead to real estate a little bit?
Yeah, so Sue actually skipped over the worst parts of our career because we got got out of school. We both went into life insurance sales, which was, I do believe it was a great company. What's that?
I forgot the bad stuff.
Conveniently
bad.
forgot that.
Well, it was a great company. It's a good product, an important product to have in your life. But we were like 22, 23 and trying to talk to people about how important it is to have life insurance to protect their family and blah, blah, blah. And, it just wasn't flying. What it taught us, though, is to just keep hustling, right? Go out there and work, knock on doors, cold call people, try and network any way you can. And we did a lot of that kind of worthless cold calling, networking. But you learn something about yourself as you do it, right? So it may not have been profitable, but it wasn't wasted.
Right.
But we did that for a short while, and then I went into this student loan company, and that was horrible. And then we went into telecom, and honestly, telecom was like a real job, and we had internships there in college at MCI, really because Sue just nagged the crap out of the woman who hired the interns. And then once she got in the door, she nagged the crap out of her to hire me. So
there you go. You owe her. She gets a referral bonus for that.
So we go back there, and that was the corporate job, and it wasn't as satisfying, but it fit a time in our life, and kids are young and you're busy just dealing with that stuff. It gave a lot of stability and kind of simplified things. But before long, we started a business on the side, and we actually
bought our first house.
What?
We bought our first house. I made $20,000 a year.
Nice.
And we saved money.
Yeah.
And we bought our first house.
That's so
Yeah.
exciting.
And then we started this beer importing business. I don't know if you ever even knew about that one.
I don't know that I think a little bit. I don't know. Colin, did you ever tell me your dad? I think
I don't know.
beer, but
I don't know because
I
I feel like I didn't understand or know about this
Maybe a
until
little bit. I don't
sometime
know.
recently too.
Yeah.
Dive in.
So it was it's a funny little story. I'll try and make it quick. But one night when I was just really frustrated with work and feeling that entrepreneurial drive and not feeling like the corporate guy, I'm sitting there thinking, I got to do something different. What is it going to be? Then I'm falling asleep thinking, what do I like? Well, I like traveling. I like India. I like beer. I'm like basically just making a list in my head of things I like. The next day, Sue's parents call and say, hey, we saw an ad in the Indian newspaper. This guy's he's out of Canada and he's looking for somebody to bring this Indian beer into the US. Like, well, that sounds like I was meant to do that.
Yeah. Weird.
So
talk about cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did that for a while. Again, didn't turn into anything. It was about the same time as friends were going back to grad school, and I say, all right, so they paid a bunch of money. We kind of broke even on that. We spent a few years doing that, but we learned a lot again. So it's all right. It was a lot of hustle, not much profit, but it was, you learn a lot doing it.
Mhm.
And it just came to a point where we either had to invest a bunch of money we didn't have, get a partner we didn't want, or shut it down, which is what we did. So we did that. And then getting into the real estate, Sue said she got into it and did really well quickly. And Anna she was a great partner and mentor to Sue, and then eventually to me too. But she was old school in so many ways, but she was just so good. She just really cared about her clients. They were her friends, and she would stay in touch with them, not so she could get business and referrals, just because she liked them. And if she didn't like them, she wouldn't call them back. Right? She wasn't going to fake it just to get the business. But she just mentored Sue and then both of us about doing the right thing, which is a great attitude towards it. And so by this time I had left 2 telecom jobs. I was now working for a consulting company, back to telecom and financial service companies. And I was managing about 40 some consultants out at client sites, and interfacing with the clients a lot. And so I'm making a pretty good paycheck doing that. And it took Sue, I think, about 6 months to start earning more than me. Just in real estate.
That's not that long.
It's not very long. So
also props to you, Sue.
That's the leapfrogging, right? I mean, once we were living on my income and then she's earning more than me, we can live on that. So I can quit my job, I stayed another year or so, I guess, but we could quit my job and have stability, that I could come join her in real estate, and knew that even if I didn't add anything, we'd be okay. Right.
Yeah.
So I didn't add anything for a while.
Hey, but actually, I think, and that's funny. Well, I was just thinking about it as we go towards the end. I think we started this call or this podcast episode with about business and everything, but I'm also learning that what it's like also having a good partner in your life to make sure that, hey, you can just also feel it from the podcast room right now, but it's impressive that you guys are also just flowing so well, in the sense that you're handling and having that actual balance of life with work, and it comes down to a lot of the foundation of things. So on top of what we're talking about with business that has a lot of value, but with the networking and also having a good partner, what that means to your life outside of your family too is huge. So I really appreciate everyone sharing. And Colin, wouldn't want to be you right now, because those are two pretty good stories, man. That's tough follow up.
Yeah, mine's a little bit simpler and shorter.
They call it short and sweet, man. Nice.
I really enjoyed the consulting in a lot of ways, like working with a variety of the government contracting clients and nonprofits and all of that stuff. But I think that after doing that for around a year, I was just interested in what else I could do in something where I felt like I had a little bit more control. And their property management company was growing, and being an agent, kind of like, they just described with Sue's income growing so quickly over 6 months. Like for me, I feel like that control as a real estate agent was really enticing. Of, if I do this, there's an element here of, if I work hard, I can control how much money I make.
Right.
That excites me. But also just there's a way different motivation for me working with my parents. Obviously, like, it's way easier to be motivated to do a good job if, first of all, my name is part of the company's name, but also I know that if I do a good job, I don't have to, petition my boss to get a raise or this or that kind of thing, because they know, we talk all the time. They know when I'm doing things well, when I'm not, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, that I think that I learned a lot of interesting things about the professional world from working at BDO with consultants who took their jobs very seriously and were very successful with what they did. That was awesome. Even for just a year, I feel like without that experience, me being in this role, I could take it way less seriously than I do. Because I feel like a lot of real estate agents do, but also in the property management world, a lot of landlords, or like mom and pop landlords, don't think of it like a job or a business. They think of, I shared a video with them earlier this week where, the guy was basically saying having a good property management business is actually hard because it's a customer service business. Your tenants are your customers. And most 100%. Landlords suck because they think, put the tenant in the house and then tenant, leave me alone. Not how can I serve you? How can I fix your problems? How can I, do all of that and collect the rent, obviously.
Yeah. And wow, I like a lot of what you said too, just because I think a lot would argue that having your parents as your boss would be even just a little bit harder too, because they're going to expect you to be at your top or expect that you're doing well, because they know you can do well and they just want to also see you learn. So I get that for sure. Also, I think you mentioned it. It's kind of those skills that you learn from other jobs. I'm learning that in some aspects of my career too, and I'm sure you both have picked a lot. Skills can be transferable in a lot of jobs you go to, and I think if you realize that and can apply those skills, that's really what you're looking for, and what skills you have that are great and what aren't so good, and how that next job or what you're looking for can either sharpen, or where you could a little bit of both, sharpen the ones really well, or the ones that aren't well, better, and then also continue to have the highs that you have and really succeed off of those. So I really appreciate there was kind of a uniform around that. So I appreciate that. And Wow, a lot of lessons being learned.
Yeah,
there.
I think it's good to learn. I think you learn. I mean, you guys are still pretty young in your careers, but you know, over time, you talked about having a partner who's in your, you know, and we work together, but understanding what we each do well and letting each person really be in their lane and do that well, that's been a learning lesson. But it's also like just figuring out what is the thing that you like. Like there's a book we got at a coaching conference years ago. It was called Go With Your Strengths. I think that was the title of it. It wasn't just like, don't just like try to do better at all the things you hate and you suck at. Just do the things that you really do well and that you really like, and do those really, really well.
Right.
That's what's going to make you successful.
I agree. And everyone's got weaknesses. It's just that, you know, if you can continue to grow from those, but also while, you know, leaning on like the strengths that you have, I think you'll, you know, put yourself in positions where you'll be sharpening the tools that you need to without even recognizing it.
Yeah.
I would love to kind of diving a little bit more like directly into business. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here, or maybe mash them all together. One, would love to hear like a positive and a negative experience you've had well in real estate that kind of you either continue to bring with you, or something. I know we always talk about something new. Maybe it just came up. Would love to know, it's probably hard, one word, how you would describe the housing market. And this is more a little direct to you, Sue and Craig, but would love to know what it was like in real estate from like 2007 to 2010, because everyone knows that's like a wild time. So we'll start with you, Sue. But yeah, oh, I would love to learn more about that. But yeah, a lot of questions in that sandwich I just threw at you. Just, you know, love to know.
Well, that I can answer all those questions in one thing. What are the positive and the negative, and how did that happen in 2007, 2010, all in one? Because I'll tell you, that was like probably the worst time. Well, not the worst time of our life, because there have been worse things, but that was so bad, like so bad. I mean, we're smart about our money, right? We saved money, we put aside money. You know, we were doing so well. We were in the early 2000s. We were buying our own investment properties. We were top selling real estate. We were helping other people. We were just dabbling in property management, not so much really. But
wait, time out. Was this while you're at Long and Foster? Or
yes, we were there in the early right. I was there from 1997 till 2013. But in that time, we were buying our own properties, but we were always consistently, Craig, me, and our top producing agents, and we were making a lot of money. We were, you know, doing well. We were saving money, but we were also investing it. But then literally it crashed. It crashed. Like people saw it crash, but it was bad. And we were, we were doing well. It wasn't like we weren't. And then it just went so bad. And here was Colin's older sister, Emily, going to college in a few years from then. So we ended up, you know, you deplete your savings. You just do what you have to do. I mean, we just did all kinds of stuff, from little things like, then you're trying to figure it all out. I was like, oh, I'm going to get a part-time job. I'm going to do this. But we had this management business going a little bit on the side. And so we sort of, I remember our broker then at the time, and she was a good friend of ours. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to just get some other job. She's like, you have another job. You have a management. We had, I don't know, a handful of clients. I have no idea, but that's how this happened. You know, that's how this grew. Like I'm sure I'm missing stuff. I think the thing that I always think about that time though, and the word I always think about it, and I still say it all the time to people, is like, it's about resiliency. You know, it's about just like you know, I was thinking about this today when I was talking to somebody, what are those called? Those big blow up things. You punch them and then they just pop back up. That's it. That's what it is. Like, okay, this sucks. So like, you can beat it down, but it's going to come right back. And that's kind of what I think of that time, because that's what we just kept going.
Yeah.
We have 3 kids. We got to just do what we have to do. And it's still emotional. It's still like very emotional. It's really, but it also makes you, I don't know, like pulls you together. But it was just, we didn't want all the stress.
Yeah.
The kids to see all the stress. But we still did go on a vacation
Mm-hmm.
because that was something that's super important to us, and it always has been. But I think so what came out of it from such a tough time is, like, I'll never forget that. Like, it isn't about the money. It's just about the, like, wow, something can just change on a dime. You gotta always be ready for things and prepare, but you have to just be resilient and just, I don't know, you just have to do whatever you have to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think, like, perseverance sticks up to me. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's wow. Yeah, there's definitely, that's a lot I'm sure that was being carried during those times. And then on top of that, how do we repair, or like, how do I repair this situation, or how do we figure, like, in the business world, like, how is this going to get repaired? What's things looking like? Because it took a long time for things to kind of get fixed. So
it did, but I always feel like things work out kind of how life is going to take you. Like, had that not happened, we probably would not have pursued the management, because what happened is we probably had about maybe 40 accounts. Now we manage about 790, right? We had about 30, 40, and it was, you have to do everything. And we didn't even know what we were doing, really. And so, but it's like steady money. And we were like, this is kind of good. Steady, a little bit of money. We're like, ooh, if we could just make enough money to pay our mortgage, every month, that would be great, because there's no other money coming in anywhere else. And it was slowly then, we just kind of just muddled through. And in 2010, we had our first opportunity to buy a book of business from some other agents we knew who were doing property management, were ready to retire. We bought their small book of business. Craig stopped selling at that point, stopped selling real estate to focus on property management, because while they go hand in hand, they're still very different.
I was about to say, I'm sure there's a lot of differences.
Lots to learn. And so then it was like, whoa, then that still wasn't easy, but there was some consistent income. We started to learn quickly that, some of those people would sell, and, and then you fast forward to now, that's 14 years later. I mean, in a different place, but I don't think we would have pursued property management if real estate had just been going, even if it just kind of went up and down, not crashed. I'm not sure we would have done it the same way, So, I mean, and now we feel like now it's a different business, because we have other people that are running it, versus real estate people wanted me or Craig, or it was a little different.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And Craig, looking to you for, it doesn't have to be that exact one, but kind of like that sandwich question, same thing to you, like a moment or two, whether it's positive, negative, like what you would sum up the housing market like, and like, what was that time like for you as well?
Yeah, I think that, I don't want to repeat what she said. There are a couple of things I just kind of comment or add to it, is that we were doing really well. And when the market started to soften, we kept doing well. We weren't feeling it. And we were seeing people dropping out of the business, and we were still doing okay. And, right about that time, we actually bought one of our investment houses, and this was July 2006. We bought it, started renovating it. I remember when we bought it, we said, all right, plan A is renovate it, flip it, be done. And I had shown it to 3 different clients and said, hey, here's a great opportunity. None of them wanted to do it. I was like, all right, we're going to buy it. So we bought it. We started renovating it. We get done in August, and that's right when basically mortgages shut down. Like, all the rules changed. You couldn't get a mortgage for, nearly as easily. And so we end up holding that house. We still have it, because plan B was rent it out. And, I think we started renting it out, losing $50 or $100 a month, but now it's making cash every month, and it's increased in value tremendously, and, all of that. So there was a transition period where we were still doing well. Even during that time, we were doing okay. We were doing fine. And even, I think, 2007 into 2008, we were doing fine, and not as well, but we were fine. I think it was 2009 where all of a sudden everything changed for us. And all of a sudden we were spending a whole lot more money trying to get business, and essentially ending up the year losing money, doing all the work and not making any money net. Excuse me. And I think that, in a way, having that having that early success when other people weren't succeeding kind of led us down a bad path because we didn't look ahead and we didn't pivot as quickly as we could have. There were a lot of people in the industry who kind of saw what was coming, pivoted, and started dealing with foreclosed homes, dealing with the process of disposing of homes for the banks that had to repossess them and all of this. And they did really well in that time. You know, you always hear, and it's very true, when the market turns down, a lot of people make a lot of money. Those people made a lot of money. They were doing crappy, difficult work, but you know what? They were making a lot of money doing it.
Right.
So
the payoff there.
And we just pivoted too slowly to get into that. It was kind of already taken up. You know, there was enough saturation of the market that they didn't need another company like us fighting for their business. And so we had a couple of hard years there before we started making decent money again. But the property management, would we have pursued it? I think we would have at a slower pace, not the same way. We definitely pursued it harder because we saw that, hey, this is paying the mortgage. This is consistent. This is something you can grow. And I think we also had the vision. We realized that you need to look forward more as to how this can change. We also realized that this is a business where it doesn't have to be one person's name that is getting called out. That you can go away and somebody else can run the business. And travel's always been important to us. And so we were looking forward. At that point, we kind of learned and we were looking forward and saying, this could be good for us. And pretty honestly, I'm not trying to beat up on people, but the standard in the industry was pretty low. So it wasn't hard to compete.
Business, let's face it.
Yeah,
that was better.
Fixing toilets and dealing with tenant issues. How many people want to do that?
Yeah. So it wasn't too hard to come in and just behave professionally and give a higher level of customer service that we had been giving in real estate sales, instead of giving a crappy level of customer service. And so I think we brought a fresh, different attitude to it. And a lot of that was learned through kind of the difficulty of thinking, we're going to be fine through real estate sales. And we weren't, we're like, all right, we got to change our attitude. We got to change the way we do things. We got to look forward more. We have to think more business, back to that entrepreneurial, instead of just making money, doing what you know how to do. Think of how you can do something different and better.
Right.
So, but that was, it was a big learning curve, and the stress of it was, it wasn't good, but it brought about a lot of good things.
Yeah.
So I don't regret it.
It's life. Like, you see in your world and what you guys have grown up with more, you see everything as, everything on Instagram and Facebook, like everything's only the good stuff, right? Everything's only, and that's like, who's going to show you all their stuff? To be vulnerable and be able to say, look, this was so bad. I don't know. It's just real. It just is what it is. But I wouldn't change it. That's what we would always tell our kids. And then we always said this, take chances, do stuff. Don't be afraid to fail or, look at how many times we failed in stuff we started, and it's not failing. It's just, it didn't work. It wasn't the right time. Who cares? Like, it's just a thing. You just learn and pick up and go on to the next thing. But if you never try, I don't know.
No, I agree. I think the word failure, and Colin, we're getting to you for sure, but just like you raise a good point in that, unfortunately, failure is the word that's tagged with things that didn't succeed, which I think anyone who's tried something or, would do something, even selling your stuff on eBay, Colin, you still pick up a lot of things from it. And success can be subjective sometimes, in the sense that what someone else might see as failure is like, well, I actually think there was a lot of success and I took a lot away from that. So I wouldn't qualify it as that. So I think that's a huge point too, just because, especially early on, if you want to succeed and you want to do so well and you want to jump really far, but you also need to know that it's okay to kind of get knocked down a peg a few times in your early career, because you're going to learn so much more as doing that. And don't be afraid, you might ruffle a feather or two, but you might as well try and see what happens, as opposed to being stagnant or never really getting there sooner.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you know what? You said it's okay to do that early in your career. It's okay anytime, right? you can
It's okay anytime, and anything can go sideways anytime, and it has, you know, in other ways, but you just deal with it. You know, you
Great
just deal
point.
with it differently. It's all right.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Colin?
Just figure it out.
Early in your career, I think, especially because you went from being in consulting work to this, like, what's something early in, and I have a question for all of you that kind of came up, especially just out of the blue. Like early in your career, switching, what's something that you've already learned in like property management and with the real estate as a whole that, because correct me if I'm wrong, you're starting to sell houses, you're starting to get into that business too, right? And
Yeah.
like, it's something, what have you already learned so far that's kind of like stood out? I know you can't really talk about the 2007, 2000 housing market from that aspect, but like maybe, what you're seeing in the market, and like also with, kids our age, especially getting into that zone of starting to think about buying their house and getting into that like part of their life. What have you kind of seen and taken away so far?
Yeah, I feel like something that I started to learn the value of the positive and negatives of it from consulting, and then more hands-on in real estate, both in property management with our clients and in sales, is just the value of building those personal relationships. And me not being someone who's the most chatty kind of person, like I'm not antisocial or anything, but just not like
No, no, no.
the super conversationalist. Oh, I'll just chat with you about anything. But
You're not
being in
Joker Girl.
exactly. Like with having real estate as this thing that most of my conversations are have in common, this with our clients, me feeling super interested, curious, and knowledgeable on it just creates those other paths for conversations with people and building those personal relationships, which we have so many clients that I don't have that many with many, but with the handful that I feel like I do know really well, I just feel like those are so strong. And then over time, another one, I have another conversation with someone who I might have shared some emails with or had a phone call with a year ago, but then we talk again, and it builds and builds and builds a little bit. And I feel like the the negative side of this is a lot for a lot of people, whether it's buying or selling their personal house, or portfolio of rental properties that we manage for them. They're valuable personal assets, or a large percentage of their investment portfolio. So me being one of only a few actors who manage that for them, we have we make decisions of big consequence for them, and they want to be hands-on. And sometimes we make mistakes that we have to eat for them, but at the end of the day, the better the relationship is, the more we can explain those things and smooth those over with, and turn the negative into leverage the positive we had to smooth over the negative things that happen. And I can't really talk about anything from 2007 to 2010, but even just
ready to do
today,
highlights.
some of those things from 2020 to now. Obviously, the housing market's totally different, and I'm starting to see that both from a personal perspective, but obviously with our clients too, who have shifted or bought a house in that time frame and are very quickly like, okay, I'm moving, doing this. I'm going to use this as a rental property because my interest rate is so low, or whatever that thing may be. And I feel like that's the main perspective I have from experience, as opposed to just what I've read about.
I think you hit like one. You want to mention it too, and you hit it there again with networking. But I think you mentioned it correctly. Like in every, like, people know that you're going to make mistakes, but I think how you handle those mistakes, and I think it would be not necessarily fair, or in some aspects unethical, for someone to come into a relationship or a business transaction in some aspect and think, okay, well, I expect that person to have everything down packed right away, or if they do, like how you handle that objection, or the mistake that's there is all about, that you just want to see people, recognize what they're doing, but get better from it or have a resolution. Because at the end of the day, it's probably not the biggest deal, but or it may be something that you're worried about, but it might be something that once you fix it, all is good and we're moving on to the next step. So I like that you mentioned that a little bit, and kind of leads into this next one before we'll dive into the end there. But I would love to hear from each of you, like, what's the difference? Sue, you kind of mentioned it. What's the difference between real estate and property management? Because you mentioned it, they are different, and I think a lot of people, to what you said, would probably see, hey, they go hand in hand. So like,
Lights are turning off.
Colin's just really excited, just getting pumped up. What is like the main difference as far, I think Colin alluded to, like, you're also managing other people's portfolio properties. So it's not only just like managing rental properties, but you're managing rental properties for other individuals. You're also selling real estate. Like, what's the difference between the both of them? As quick, like, as I know you could probably talk hours about it, but like in an amount of time that you think, like, you could get the point across. I'd be curious to know what's the difference and your take on that. Sorry.
Well, if you look at it from a business owner, I look at it like this, like from selling real estate, it to me, it feels a bit more like a hamster wheel. You're always looking for the next one. Sure, people can refer business to you, but once that deal's done, that income is over. You got to find the next one, and you got to constantly be getting referrals. That's okay, and people are very successful doing it. And that is a very different business model than having a property management company where you have contracts with people and you have residual income every month. You can build on it. Yes, you're constantly selling new accounts, but you know that for at least hopefully a year or longer. I mean, many of our clients say many, many years. And we don't generally lose people for bad reasons, that they don't like us, we're not doing a good job. They move back, they might sell their home, or maybe they want to manage it themselves, or, for whatever reason, it might end. But you build those, and then so you have this nice stream of income. You do a good job for people. You might be able to sell them another property. Maybe you sell them, and so we look at this as like being a business manager for those people, for managing their real estate asset the way that a financial advisor would manage somebody's financial portfolio. We're managing the real estate portfolio. So it's a little different. The sales is done, it's done. But I think I like that model better. I like the opportunities that come from that model, because there's a lot of ancillary businesses that come out of it that we have a contracting business. We sell windows. Colin's very involved in that. We do, we do the real estate. We do real estate sales, and always will, because we have personal clients. We have a lot that comes. So they're different, but they do feed each other. They're people. We have many investors who have come to us. We've sold them properties. We lease them. We manage them, and that's also goes the other direction. So it's, I don't know, in a nutshell, to me, that's kind of the difference. I like all of it. I mean, I like, I like keeping the relationship with people, and, it's.
Yeah, something our business development manager would say, I've heard him on the phone say it to many people, is like the relationship with the agent selling your house or buying your house is like dating. The relationship with us managing your house is like a marriage. We've got to work it out. We'll have problems and we'll work through them with an agent who's helping you buy a house, and that's it. Oh, if you have a problem, well, guess what? You can just call someone else, and they'll be ready to help you buy your house, or whatever it is. We want to do all of that and have that.
I like that.
That's very true. That's the best way to explain it, really, because something's going to go sideways, and somebody's going to get mad, and we're in the middle, and we're trying to make everybody fix the problem, and it's like a marriage.
I was going to say that same thing, and it is very true. But this reminds me also of one of our property management industry conferences we were at several years ago, and like the final speaker on the final day of this multi-day thing, he's a guy who's been in the business at that point for like 30 years. And he comes out on stage, and they have like projection of a boxing ring, and he comes out in the referee, outfit. And he says, property management's like a boxing match. The only problem is both the guys are trying to hit you.
Well, I was wondering where he was coming on the referee thing, but that's a great analogy. Is that like what you said? You're in the middle. Everyone's gonna have like problems, and you're gonna have to be the one that they lay it on.
Yeah. So it really, I mean, sales is generally a happy transaction, right?
Sure.
99% of them, people are excited. They're getting a new home. They're, moving away because selling this house because they're going somewhere they want to go. It's all that. It's all done in a few months, 6 months longest usually, and it's all happy. This is that long-term relationship. People don't really call you because they're happy. They call you because something needs to get fixed, whether it's the tenant's toilet and, whatever, garage door, or the owner with a question about the money or whatever it is. And, the other thing that we always try and position ourselves in our minds and in our clients' minds is that they have a business and we are their business manager. In sales, you're helping somebody complete a transaction they want to complete. Property management, you are running their business for them. So, or put it another way, like it's like a sports team. This is what our operations director has said, is that, there's a team owner, there's a team manager, and then you have the team players, right? And so, yeah, I like the business analogy though, because in the business analogy, you have a product. It's the house you're renting. Right. You have like the basically the business owner who is the client who owns that house. You have a customer who is your tenant. You have to keep your customers happy. You have to keep your product good enough that the customer is willing to pay a good price for that product. Right. And then, that owner doesn't want to run their business themselves. That's what we do. And we can we can run it better than they can because we do it all day, every day. And if they're just going to do it after work and on the weekends, and then not really going to be prepared to handle an emergency call when they're on vacation, right? That's like a weakness in their business plan. So, I think that's another good way to look at it, is the value we can add and the kind of the perspective that we can put on it. So
I like that a lot. Yeah, no, and I think it's to what you said about, it kind of it's along the same lines. It's willing to do work that either people don't want to, or not necessarily don't want to, but like knowing going into a certain role that people are going to come to you with problems, and how you handle those solutions is actually more and more going to benefit you and help you grow. Because I think more valuable than a good product is someone who knows how to handle when things go south and how to handle situations, because then that person, to what you said, like a customer and also a manager or a business partner you're working with, they can trust that like any situation, really anyone can handle the easy situations. It's when the tough ones come down that who can you like trust that's gonna work hard to get things done, but also make sure that they're done with open lines of communication. Everyone knows what's going on, things are getting completed, everyone's kind of happy but updated in the same sense. So I thank you for all for sharing that, for sure. And lastly, before I ask my ridiculous question, what would you share with, like, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, but also whether that's real estate or just what you were doing as a kid and where you've gotten to now from that aspect of plus your careers, what's something you would definitely think share with people such as Colin or myself or anyone? Honestly, I think Craig, you brought up that point. Anyone really who's could be doing something that they're thinking about doing is new, or what that could be. What would be something you shared from your past? And also on top of that, whether it's in real estate or outside real estate, something that you find really interesting and that you wish more people kind of learn about or knew. I think that's part of what you said about entrepreneurial. People start hearing things, people learn things, you never know who's going to hear what. So I'd love to hear about that as well. And we'll start with you, Sue.
I think that I would I think I said this already too. I think the big thing I always say is just try new stuff, and do things that you're interested in, and figuring out what that is sometimes is a hard part when you're, and what should I even be doing? What do I even like to do? And sometimes that just comes. Sometimes you have to just not push that so hard and try to figure it out, and but be open to seeing things and opportunities. But really, I mean, I'm a big believer of taking risks and doing other things that I'm somebody who likes to work. So people will tell you that I sometimes, like I say right now, I need to get back to it, because we've been working a lot. We just acquired a company at the end of last year, so it's been nonstop. That is a bit unusual, and we're all a bit fried.
Right get into acquisitions.
Yeah, we're really a little fried, but it's but I do enjoy. What I like is looking for me personally, I like looking for I need to be something creative. I learned that about myself. So that I like cooking. I like doing other things that involve creativity. I like, I built my YouTube channel. That's actually produced a good amount of business for us, but it's fun. It allows me to like take all the stuff we've learned over the last 25 years and teach other people who are landlords all over the place, right? They get calls from people all over the country. In fact, somebody around the world came here and I sold him a house. I mean, it was just random, saw a video I did. I wrote a book this year. Like sometimes I put too many projects on my plate. This year, I'm not going to do that. This year, I'm going to chill. But last year I did that. I have an online course that I have for real estate investors about learning how to manage your property. It's a lot of things I did, too much too, but you got to, you have to manage it too. But it's sometimes that stuff doesn't feel like work to me because I like it, but there's also too much. So
no, I your point too. I think like trying a bunch of new stuff, you wouldn't know that. Hey, you wouldn't know what is and what isn't too much unless you tried it. And then if you find, okay, to me too, I think I'm similar. Like I'd rather scale back and at least I've tried it, or I'm probably just gonna sit there and mull over a million different ways of what I could have done or what I could do or do anything. So might as well try and then all right, let's figure out how we stabilize from here. So I think that goes to trying.
I do it, Joe. I think you're like me then, because I'm a fire, aim, ready, or whatever, like the opposite. I'm not. I just like, okay, I know enough. Let's do it, because I want to do a podcast this year. But I'm like, oh, I like already doing too many things. But maybe by the summer I'll be able to do it. Maybe
it's funny. It drives Lindsay nuts. She's like, "Do you ever like just slow down?" I was like, "I can't. I don't know how to." But I think to your point, one, you'd crush a podcast. I would tune in, but I think, like you said, just kind of managing afterwards. Okay, like how can I know I can do this, but I need to just scale back and figure out how I can do that first with thing I have in play. Craig, looking at you.
Yeah, I think to me, like going through this is a lot of self-discovery, which this kind of thought and approach to things I think is a lot more common in your generation than it was in ours. When we were, going through school, getting out of school, getting into the work world, self-discovery wasn't that big a thing. It's, succeed or don't, right? So what I think we've really learned, and it goes back to something you hit on earlier with go with your strengths, or Sue mentioned, is that we all do better if we do what we're liking to do and we do what we're good at, right? And you generally don't like to do things you're not good at. So
yes,
within the company, we always try and keep people working in jobs that they like, and that they're successful at. And for ourselves, that's really important too. And I think for the longest time, I would personally was willing to do absolutely anything, because what I really wanted was a business that would succeed. And I made myself do things that I really didn't like for a long time. And you know what? Other people can do them better.
Yeah.
So if we had, I guess, had a little more awareness, not been kind of desperate in financial situations for those few years in the middle, if we had had the money and invested it in getting other people to do the things they could do better, we could have grown faster, further, stronger, all of that. But that is part of that's the situation and the time, and we couldn't. Right. We needed to pull the money out of the business to feed the family. And then part of it is just the self-awareness and learning. Okay, I thought I liked doing that, but I didn't really like doing it. I just wanted to be successful.
Right. Exactly. And I think people confuse what that word means sometimes. Like, again, could also be, I think we said it before, subjective. Like some people are like, oh, that's what successful is. Not necessarily. Like if that was successful, I'd feel like then I'm being successful. So I think that's a good point you bring up.
Yeah.
You know what, the successful part, like just interject, just like your parents, like always at baseball, always in there for sport, just like we were always like that. That is the balance we always wanted. That was that's success. Like
absolutely. And that was to me, that was a lot of the value of working in our own business, whether it was during the time we were doing sales or after property management started, was that if there was a kids event at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday at school, we're going to be there. Right? I'm going to rearrange my work schedule to make that kid event more important. And it's hard to do that in most jobs. So that was,
Mhm.
some people value it more. We valued that a lot.
Yeah.
So it was important to us. But I think that self-awareness of figuring out what you're good at, not trying to be good at the other things, and bringing around people who can help you and support you and do those things better is really the growth curve for everybody. Whether you're in the corporate world or the entrepreneurial world, just having that awareness is going to be a huge change for you in your future. And now we're a lot bigger. We're clearly a lot more successful in this. With this acquisition, we're almost at 1,000 properties. We're at 973 as of today. So we've seen a lot of change, because 3 years ago we were at 300 and some.
Wow.
So
that's pretty good growth.
It's a lot of growth, and that brings a lot of change and a lot of stress of its own. And so I think that it kind of helps you figure out how to really get in your lane. And we've actually hired some consultants to help us through this too, to get in your lane and do the things you're good at. And not try and reach out of your lane. And as you grow, you hire more people, and not everybody does things the same. And so you can't expect the people you hire to do it the way you would do it.
Right, exactly.
You have to set the goals and have an understanding that they're going to do it their way. As long as they get to the goals we all want, we're fine.
Right? I think that's a huge point you just said, because I think a big thing, especially I've noticed, at least early in my career, is that like you have this urge to, like, you want to put a lot on, you want to do a lot of things because you either want to tie your name to it, or you're trying to do a lot, and you're trying to like make a name for yourself, or you're trying to do something. But if you do too much, like it can hinder it. You're going to do either like a poor job, or like it's not going to be the best that it could be. And you probably know that.
Right.
And it's huge to rely on. I think we've said it before, like in your office or wherever you're working, or using your network to ask people for help and being okay with knowing that they're probably going to do it differently, but it's going to help your business as a whole. So letting go some of those like standards that you had maybe in your head, and you're like, no, like let them do their thing. They've been successful. Trust that they'll be successful, and it's going to end up helping you.
Yeah. That's so very true in the business. And I can tell you examples from contractors we've used to do parts of the job to different employees. I mean, you see it over and over and over. People do something differently, and you think it's really frustrating at first, and then you watch and they do it better than you did, and you're like, all right, I should stop complaining and let them do it better.
Exactly. There you go. Hey, why not? And then Colin, last but not least, buddy.
As they were both talking, I'm kind of chuckling to myself, because everything that I thought of initially is like the combination of both of what they're talking about. And I think it's just because the three of us talk about this kind of stuff a lot. So like for me, I think about the importance of just taking action, because I am someone who will read everything I can, or watch every YouTube video or whatever before I do anything. Like if I'm going on vacation somewhere, I've walked it on Google Earth. I've read all the menus on the restaurants that I think I might possibly go to. Like I've watched, countless YouTube videos of the same experience, and I'm rational enough to know that my experience is going to be unique and different. But I'm like, I want to get there and be able to like traverse this whole city without looking at the map. That's how much I just kind of like, I just like to research and study those things. And more recently, I've realized I just have to take the action, and I'll learn through doing that as much as I will from doing all of this studying. And that kind of like the other thing that came to my mind that it kind of goes hand in hand with that is finding the elements of play and discovery just in your regular day-to-day work can make it more fun, and can make you'll learn a lot more from those experiences if you think of it in just kind of a way of, okay, what can I discover and learn from doing this? Like for me, just having an odd tough conversation with some owner, telling them, oh, we've got to drop the price on your listing, or this or that, whatever the kind of conversation is just thinking, instead of just thinking about, okay, let me just get this over with, finding, or instead of reading as many blogs as I can on how to, have conversations like this in business.
Right.
Think about, how do I let me test this time. Let me take the action and just do this and see how this goes over with them. Oh, I feel like phrasing it this way, or I feel like, changing my tone, or whatever those things are, is like find that element of play in the work, and that'll encourage you to just constantly take new actions, and then you learn from that experience, which is the experience. I think anyone who's done something and done something for a long time and been successful at it will probably tell you that the experience is so much more valuable than what they might have read, or anything else like that.
So he's learned something since because I remember, I'll tell you something, when Colin started and he was like, okay, I need to learn how to do this, and I would go through like the contracts or this or that, and I teach him stuff, and he's like, but I was like, I don't know, like I can't teach you the situation, like there's going to be a different situation every time, and you're just going to have to like, okay, then you just have to ask me, you have to learn when it's situational.
I think you and Sue are the ready, aim. I mean, ready, fire, aim. And
I was just about to say
like ready, aim. Okay, now we'll fire.
One more aim.
We were talking about, because we were talking about, Colin and I would collaborate on some stuff, or like we talked about doing a podcast together, and we're like, okay, he's like, okay, we'll have to have all this stuff. I'm like, I don't know, like we have this idea, I'll just start talking to somebody, and it'll just like evolve, and then that we'll just record it. But But I think what he said is true. Like I think he's figured that out, especially in the business part of it. You can't know everything. It's like knowing the whole internet. Like I was like, how are we going to teach you all this? Like we just know enough. Start doing. We'll learn as we go.
I am 100% that way. And Colin, you bring up a good point though, because like I'm learning in my career how just doing that much more research can help you a little bit more, and like be more like if I just take 5 more minutes to learn about like a product, or if I take 5 more minutes to learn about like the talk track tour, like a migration for something like that, like it's gonna go a little bit more with like the IT, ServiceNow contract holder for whatever school, or like the CIO or something. Like it's gonna make that conversation. So I'm learning like that's huge, vast, and it recently happened in my new job where like I did, and I was like, I'd rather be more efficient when I can do what I can try, and again, being the new guy at 6 months in, I still have a veil of newness, so to speak. I can try and see what people come back with. If they come back, I'll be like, I'm just new, I didn't know any better. But it kind of came back and bit me a little bit, because this woman who's truly valuable for our company, and she does a really good job of carrying her business, came back and was like, you don't need to do it this way. Here's XYZ. And I learned that had I taken a second to learn more about the process and kind of understand that more, I wouldn't have actually done what I did, in the sense of creating more work that was unnecessarily fast forward was coming out today. So like I think learning about the process and being a little bit more patient can go a long way too, just because it may pay off sooner than you think, and you're going to be more ready for that situation when it eventually arises. So I do agree. I am very much like you though, Sue, where I'm like, we'll figure it out. Like if we have enough information, I mean, like, all right, we learned that you can't do that, or you have to do certain things, and
not always good.
Pick it up from there. But there's huge value to doing your research and preparing. But Colin, you'd hate me on a trip, because I'd be like, where are we eating? Okay, let's go. Like, I mean, we could try it. I don't know what it's like. It might be I don't know what it is. And
if you see my Google Maps, I have stars in places I've never been, because I'm like, oh, when I go there, I already know where I'm going to go.
Right, yes. I really
Beirut.
like
My globe on the Google map is all stars. Places I will go when I go there. I was putting down stars before they had options for anything but the yellow star.
I'm literally just gonna reach out to you too and just be like, I'm thinking about traveling here. I know you have a star for it. Can I just get some background on what we're doing? Like, do you say crew? You guys are gonna be so much better at that. So like, why even bother? I'll Venmo. You just give me your Venmos. I'll pay you for it. But like, you guys are way better at that than me. I wouldn't even have half the stuff you guys probably have.
Yeah, that's fun stuff. I still love researching trips. But I've learned that I guess it's that self-awareness thing. I don't read the menus. I look at a good review. I'm like, okay, I want to go there. Well, I'll figure out what I'm eating when I get there. I don't know what time, So there is, I think, it's funny that came up, because one of the things we've said a few years ago, and I really would love to do it again, is that we'd like to get a few friends together and just say, hey, we're going away next weekend, and not tell them where.
Oh,
and tell them, all right, you need to give me $200 or $300. I'm going to buy your tickets.
Yeah.
And we're going to show up there, and we are going to have nothing planned, and we're going to have to figure out what to do.
I like it though. That's spontaneous. You never know what can happen. And
so we'll tell them, hey,
experience.
dress for this kind of weather, or pack for this kind of weather. You're going to be going 2 days. You're going to go to this kind of weather, and we're going to just go and figure out what to do. And like it kind of, we're all, our friends and us, we're all kind of like pretty driven, kind of type A people who like to do a lot of planning one way or another. So this would, in a way, kind of test everybody's ability to be flexible, and just give you a fun thing to go out and say, all right, we're going to do X number of things a day. We don't know what they are until that day, and we're going to figure it out. So we want to go see a show. All right, let's see what's available. Let's see what we can get tickets to.
That's awesome. That's what it is, and you kind of create something from there. You're going to learn stuff while you're going.
Yeah.
Colin, as like a researcher, though, do you hear that and you're like, I see some problems with that?
Yes, but I'm coming around where I'm like, I know that I enjoy that. Exactly. It's just the going into it, I fear that unknown. Right? But I know that once I'm in that situation, I'll enjoy it just as much as everyone else, figuring the things out.
A few years ago, we went to Paris with some friends, and we had all been there a few times before. And we said, all right, we're going to have a list of things we each want to do. We're going to agree that we're not going to do any A-list things. Like, we are not going to the Louvre. We're not going to the Eiffel Tower. We're not going to go to any of the A-list tourist things in Paris. And we will only commit to doing one thing a day. You can have a list of kind of plan B things if you want. But other than that, we're just going to walk around and stop in a cafe and have a cup of coffee, or have lunch wherever we pass. Or, if I don't care if it's 2 PM, we can start drinking. Right,
exactly. I completely agree with that.
You know what I mean? Just do whatever you feel like doing and go, oh, we're close to this thing that's on the list. Let's go see if it's open, and that kind of spontaneity is kind of refreshing, and it makes you reevaluate how you've been doing things. So it's good sometimes, I think, in business too, to stop holding to the pattern. You know what I mean? Like, let people try their way or try somebody else's way, or approach something that doesn't have high consequences. Approach it with no plan. Let's say,
right, exactly.
Let's take a first step. I wouldn't do that with like an important client meeting.
Exactly. Right. It's circumstantial in some aspect. And I think to what you're saying too, there's like a level of trust on those trips too. Like, we're going to do, like, everyone kind of trusts each other, but also you've been with each other before, but like there's circumstances along those two, but like you said, but you want to, the same goal being like spontaneous and what's going to happen.
Yeah. It makes it fun.
I feel like, just to thinking about the business side of things and why I've kind of come around to this, just taking action and kind of jumping into it without the research thing, is in 4.5 years now of having a real estate license, I've shown so many of our rental properties where I just show up and meet someone new and to show them this house that we have for rent. And there's only so much planning that I can do before I just meet someone and say, ask them about their qualifications and all of that stuff, which, plenty of that I do ahead of time. But I get there and they have all these questions that I didn't know that I don't know. And then I'm like, okay, how do I figure out this answer? Or do I just have to tell them I'll text them later tonight, or
which is
all
fun.
Of that kind of stuff, which is like, those are the fun discovery and like changes your perspectives on some things when you're like, well, I get to build this skill of how do I meet people and just kind of like start this conversation with them and try to, build some rapport and also inform them about something. And like, I just have to kind of jump into this knowing that I'm somewhat blind and trust that I'll figure my way out of it. And
I think you nailed it. Like, the attitude of being like, okay, I'm going into this and I don't know, like I don't know, and that's okay. And it's totally okay as long as, you, Colin, I'm pretty sure I would love to put a number probably in the high range that you are probably 90% prepared for all these questions and answers. But that 10% is like, okay, like if, they ask 10 questions and I answer 8 of them and 2, or even, however many, if I answer 5 of them, I'll tell them the rest, but at least being honest with them, like, hey, I don't know off the top of my head, and that's okay, and I'll get you the right answer, because at least then it's the right answer, and I'm taking the time to, and that's something early on you learn in your career, I feel like, too, is you take the time to get the right answer, which is much more valuable than sprinting to get the wrong one and having to repeat and make mistakes, and rather than just being patient with the person and one time doing things correctly. So I like that part of that too. And go ahead, Craig.
No, I was just saying that's a huge thing, that take time to get the right answer and just set the expectation. I don't know, but I'll get back to you. Right.
Exactly. And pivoting from that, because I think after every interview it always happens, but like we could talk probably another 45 minutes on all the topics we just ironed out and do each individual one. And I think that in itself is a good conversation. But finally, one of my favorite questions, and I've been cruising to ask you guys this question, because I see you as both, like, Colin, I've asked you this question, but I see both as just like the nicest people. For, again, those, I think I said in the beginning, the Richeys are a second family. I would go hang out with Mrs. Richey and Colin and all them all the time, and Craig too, and played sports with Colin growing up, always carpooling, things like that. So like I always see them as the nicest individuals. But in this situation, I'm sure you've seen it in movies, things like that. And I asked this question to like everybody, and I'm starting with you, Sue. In a situation where like fifth graders are like coming at you to like overpower you, how many do you think you could beat up or take down before they come at you? And I realize I'm asking this to people who are not only business professionals and, have a lot of clients who probably have children. So like, they're like, hey, that's an interesting question. But again, I'm just curious to know in that kind of situation. It's just a thought provoking one. But yeah, we'll start with you, Sue.
I have no idea how to answer that question.
It's a thinker. Yeah. Fifth graders are huge now too. So fifth graders are huge now too. Like they're
huge. I think they're pretty smart, and I'm pretty tough, but I don't know if I could take them.
Yeah, it's a tough.
I'm gonna say 5. I have no idea.
I was talking with he used to play for the Capitals. His name's Carl Alsner. I was talking to him last week, and he said he's 6'4". He's a hockey player, defense. You think he said something like 8 to 10. Because he was like, let's be realistic about this. Like, it's still people coming. I was like, if his job essentially a lot of times in hockey is to hit and play defense, I feel like a fifth grader is nothing to him. For him to say like 8 or 10, something like that, is a very, I think, realistic perception of what fifth grade level is out there. So I respect that answer a lot.
Like I say 2. Okay. I do
kick
hockey. But that's not gonna. I'm short.
I think he could take 8 to 10 at a time.
That's what I was like. 20. I spoke to. He's an Indian driver for Maserati for Formula E. He said something like 25 people. I was like, there's just no, and he's like, that's not much bigger than me. He said 25, 50. It was, his name's Jahan. I was like, I'd love to know your rationale behind that. Cause you can't use the car, right? Like I'm asking like a person to stop. There's just no way you could do that. So I respect the answer a lot for sure. Right, let's hear it.
Okay, assuming it's not all at once.
It is all at once. They are coming at you.
They're all attacking you at once.
Let's think
one huge wave of the whole school.
It's like, think about like a recess, or like think about like something you out and there's classes coming out, that kind of situation. Maybe not like the whole school, like Colin, like you said. It's like recess, and it's the whole fifth grade class coming at you.
I don't know. I would feel like I could get 5 to 10 pretty easily, but
there's a psychological aspect.
There's this kung fu fighting. Like I know where to hit them better than they know where to hit me.
Exactly. Experience outweighs, nimbleness in that situation for sure. Victor might be able to move quicker, but I know where to go very quickly. Yeah, I agree with that. That's true. Psychologically, also, I know how to. If I take down 2, this is going to sound aggressive, but if I take down 2 fifth graders, in an overgrowth, some of them are going to get kind of psyched out, back up a little bit. You can't.
Right.
It's a little bit deeper over that and a little darker. So I apologize there, Colin.
You got to go a little hard on the first one just to scare it. Like
that poor first child. But it is what it is. Colin, you want to brush up on your answer? I forget what you said last time. I think you've been on like 3 times.
I don't remember, but I don't know that I have a good answer, because I flip flop on this of like. Well, I could outrun a lot of these.
Are you going to do research on?
So I wouldn't even have to inflict any harm. I could run away from most fifth graders. I think.
Fair point.
If I had to fight, there would go my lights again. If I had to fight, I don't know. I feel like if it got more than 4, I don't know that I could control more than 2 fifth graders attached to my arms.
Okay.
Like if I had 2 on any given limb,
It's over.
I don't know
It's a
how
wrap.
much I could continue fighting.
That's a great point. Great point to the conversation, because
You can knock a few down as the others are trying to grab onto you.
Yeah, so maybe
Right.
maybe like more than 4 is the max, where it's like if I have 2 on my right arm and 2 on my right leg, I think then it's downhill from there.
You
I
got to,
agree.
if you got 2 on your right arm, you take the one on the left arm and you smack them.
There you go. Work smarter, not harder. Also, talking about that management degree, feel free next time you're doing interviews with potential candidates, feel free to lob this at them just for, see how they do on their feet, or also
Shock factor.
if they come at you hot with like 25, be like, you need to explain yourself there. I don't know
Yeah.
I'm looking at you. I don't know if I can believe that answer. No, I'm just kidding. But still, it's just interesting because I love asking that question. And like, it's a fun question to ask, like a lot of different people. You never know what you're going to hear. So I appreciate that. That's all I had. I really appreciate this. Is kind of more of all of them are special, but this one's more special just because I've known you all so much, and you guys were all part of my life, my whole life, and continuing will be. So I appreciate that a lot. That being super busy, you've come on.
It's been fun.
And yeah, definitely. I love it. I love that you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to
It's
chat
been-
with you, Joe.
It's fun. It's and I definitely would love to listen to what you're going to put out there. I think there's benefit to it.
I'm
And
still trying to figure out what I want to talk about because there's so many things I could talk about that
I was just about to say we've learned just in this one and that was just on this topic. There's a whole bunch you could dive into. I think experience definitely weighs much more in this situation in terms of being able to talk about what you've been through, especially in your career being successful. I think it's definitely something you could talk about anything, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
I don't want to talk about work. I don't want to
There
talk
you
about work. I talk about work too much. I want to talk about something else.
There you go. That's already a start.
I have ideas.
There you go. Well, again,
Thanks,
always love
Joe.
having you on. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. With that, we'll sign off. But